Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to episode 33 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money. Today's episode is going to be a little heavier because it's one of the most important ones I've ever done. We're talking about financial abuse, what it really looks like, how to recognize it, and how to begin healing from it. Financial abuse isn't always obvious. It can look like love, protection, or help at first, but over time, it chips away at your freedom, your confidence, and your relationship with money. I'm also sharing parts of my own story, how it showed up for me, how I found my way out, and how that experience shaped the way I teach financial confidence and financial education today. If this topic brings up emotions for you, please know you're not alone. Please also make sure that you do what you need to soothe and take care of yourself. And if you're ready to start rebuilding your financial safety and confidence, that's exactly what we focus on inside the Wealth Alignment Assessment. The link is in the show notes. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all before we get started with this. I am a bit nervous, right, to share my story in as much detail that wants to come up and be present today. And as anybody who has been involved in an abusive situation and where your abusers are still alive and well, around, all of those things, there's that bit of, I'll call it fear there, right? That somebody's going to come for you or that it's not going to go well, right? And so I am acknowledging that feeling that is present within me and still choosing to move forward and share this information because it is important. And these are the things that we need to know and we need to look out for. So send your girl some strength today. What financial abuse actually is controlling someone's ability to access, earn, or use money. And this can look like your partner monitoring every single purchase that you make. It can look like hiding financial information. It can look like limiting access to accounts or cards, credit cards, debit cards, all of that stuff. Forcing someone to take on debt. Can also look like guilt tripping or gaslighting around spending. Financial abuse occurs in 99% of domestic violence cases, according to the National Network to End Domestic Violence. And yet it's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, normalized, or masked as love. And I think another important piece here is that even though it's involved in many domestic violence cases, up until recently and even still today, it's just starting to be recognized as a form of abuse. It's starting to be recognized as something, that people are having to deal with and overcome. I can remember the times when people didn't believe me or thought that that could never happen to me. And so feels like a good time to get into my story. And there's many layers to it. And so, with anything, I'm deeply intuitive. And so I tend to follow and just present what wants to come up and be present and, let it let it ride and let it fly from there. The first thing I want to say is that I did not realize or didn't have a name for the financial abuse that I was experiencing while it was happening. It's something that as I went into some somatic therapy, and as I worked through some of the blocks and the things that were happening for me, I realized that it actually was financial abuse. I always knew that money felt like a tense topic for me. And in my case, I experienced it as I was growing up and even in early adulthood. And some of those signs that I miss is one, just the fear of talking about money. It wasn't like a tense thing where I'm like, oh, I don't necessarily want to ask for money. I was literally afraid to ask for it. I was afraid to bring up the conversation. Um, I had witnessed a lot of explosive arguments happen as a result of conversations about money and just how tense it was. And one of the other early signs that I had and that I talked about in the intro episode for this podcast, which is really the reason why I'm recording this one today, after hearing so many of you wanting to know more about it. But one of those early signs was when I was a kid going to Disneyland. Now we went with school, right? And so it's a field trip. I think I was in band at that time. There were multiple occasions when this happened, even when there was daycare and things like that. But I would, we had to bring some money so we could eat something at the park. And I know that they gave, they gave recommendations. Now, no one is saying that you need to go send your child with like $200 to Disneyland. Absolutely not. But there were times I was given a $20 bill or less and told to figure it out for the day. When I would express concern, I was told that I was ungrateful. I was, asked why I would question that. I just need to go and I just need to find something or ask a friend, if I could have some of their food, whatever it was. That's what it was. I was given that and I was told to go away, and there was no communication about that. And at the time, I just thought that that's how it was, right? That was what my experience was like in my household. And so I just thought that's what it was for everybody. And I realized later that's not the case. I also started to experience, there was just like a lot of shame around it and a lot of self-doubt. I remember we all have like piggy banks or whatever when we're kids. And I had a treasure chest and I would put money in there and then it would be stolen from me. Sometimes there was a note to promise it would be paid back. Other times there was not. It was just taken. I would ask about it and then I would be yelled at. I would be told it was never my money in the first place. And that, of course, adversely affected my relationship with money later down the line, and made it hard to feel like it was going to stay. Made it hard to feel like there was going to be money available. The other instance that I had was in college. There was an agreement with me and my parents where they would take care of the housing and the tuition part. And there were a couple of different occasions when I received eviction notices on my door with no warning and no heads up, right? Nothing at all. And then I'm panicked. I'm also embarrassed because my roommates are like, why aren't you paying your rent? And I thought it was being paid. And I would, call and ask, like, what's going on? Do I need to find an additional job? I was already working 2 at that point, but I was like, do I need to find an additional job to be able to, pay for rent? And then, I was yelled at. I was told that I was ungrateful for even questioning, what was going on or what was happening with my living situation. I was told that I should never question what's happening in the situation. And, at that time I'm trying to I'm asking the questions because I just want to solve the problem. Like it's not even coming from that place of being like I was angry, but it was really like in those conversations, I'm just trying to figure out like what's going on. And to be told that it was my fault that this was happening when I didn't even know what was going on, to be told um that I'm ungrateful for even asking, for I should never question anything when it comes to the finances or what's happening with my housing. That also just it produced that insecurity, right? Like no one wants to show up and find that they could be getting evicted and have the threat of that and then have to figure out like where to go or where to get the money from or anything like that. Um and so I thank God to this day that I had a very understanding landlord because it happened with that person on 2 separate occasions. And she understood what I was dealing with and really gave me a lot of grace, and I appreciate her for that now. But it was a very tough situation when you're not able to ask questions about money, when you're not able to get access to do something. And then on top of that, when you're not being given the ability to take over the accounts yourself, right? Everything was like, no, you just don't get that. Um it made it a very stressful experience, which was college itself. USC was stressful, period. Okay. But then to deal with that on top of it, was hard. I was already doing what I could to, like make sure I had food to eat, but to then have that on top of it um was a lot. And then uh I continued to like just move forward and even though I would be told that it wasn't going to happen again and that I didn't need to worry, like that worry was still there. And being naive at that time, I still continued to trust it. And then what kind of became the last straw for me was about 3 years after I graduated. I received a summons at my door, and was notified that I was being sued for back tuition. And mind you, I just thought that like my college diploma got mailed to the house, and that's why I didn't have it. And it turns out that that wasn't the case, that I wasn't getting it because there was still money owed and none of the communications were coming to me. They were all going to that house. And so, I was shocked. This was 2015, y'all. So like I was already pretty like I was starting to build myself back from broke at that time. And this just felt like another like another barrier and another weight. And I just didn't know what to do. And so I called my dad, um and he started to blame me immediately. He had said that it was my fault um that this happened, and tried to bring up something around my tuition where like I should have chosen better, quote unquote. But there was never any accountability for putting me in those situations, right? Like withholding that information from me. And then he offered no guidance. He was just like, okay, well, if you need help reading the summons, let me know, but that's it. Like good luck figuring it out. basically. And so then, even though that agreement was made about the housing and the tuition, I was then saddled with 5 figures of back tuition. And it was just a heartbreaking time. It was a heartbreaking moment. I felt completely abandoned, and I didn't wanna tell anybody. Like, I was so embarrassed, and it just I think there's the part about when you do try to share and folks say that I should just get over it, that made me feel like I couldn't share. Um and that's kind of when I realized that situation was when I realized that, control, it does not equal care. And somebody hiding things from you and not giving you access, not communicating, is not love. It's not support. It's not bad of you to ask questions. I started to realize that. And that was when I told myself I needed to get all of my accounts and everything away from him, as quickly as possible. I was in a dark place for a minute, after that happened. I felt hopeless, and I felt like there was no getting out of it. Like I really felt like I was drowning. And so at that point I was like, okay, what can I do? Right. And it took courage to separate, myself financially, to also separate myself contact wise. That was when, I decided to lessen my contact, with him in particular. And, it was hard because for so many years that felt like the parent I was closest to. And to realize that they were intentionally, maybe unintentionally, hurting me, it was difficult. I did not go to therapy at that point, interestingly enough, but it was like 5 years ago in 2020 that I really got into a lot of the somatic uh, therapeutic practices, and that is when a lot of this was uncovered, like really got uncovered, and it was really able to heal it. Uh, but at that time, it was me diving into like, what do I need to do to deal with this back tuition situation? As I started to, separate other parts of the finances and not lean on him for anything anymore. It meant that some months, those months that I tell y'all about where like I saved $2 at a time, that's when that was happening. But what it did lead me to do is start to trust myself with money, and I was almost forced into it in a way. But it was like that moment that I said, like, one, I never want another woman to go through this. And it was also at that point that I was like, I had to accept that I didn't have anybody to fall back on, and I had to figure this out on my own. I had to, get this resolved, even without the help of the people that were taught to get support from the most, and that was hard to do. And it was just, focusing on, okay, now that I have this agreement made, for the back tuition part, what are the steps that I need to take? That's when I started really diving into a lot of the personal finance books, and, seeing what I could do and how to set up my systems. And it really became the catalyst to why I do this work. Now, I will say that there are additional things that, that happened and that I witnessed when I was younger, in terms of like money being withheld and not shared, in the home that I grew up in. But truthfully, those specific details, that's not my story to tell. And I hope that maybe one day that person wants to tell their story, but, um, all I can share is what I experienced directly. And I really took this, especially as I got into financial coaching. I wanted I wanted women to feel safe and powerful with money again, just as I began to, as I started to take the steps to improve my credit score, as I started to, take the steps to, uh, pay down the debt, some of which was not my fault. There were other items, some medical bills that were put onto my credit that were I was told were going to be paid and were not. And there's this part where I had to accept that even though this wasn't my fault, I had to take financial responsibility for it, and that's one of the hardest things to do. Um, because you didn't cause the problem. Like, you didn't cause the situation, but whether you like it or not, it's your financial responsibility. And so I started to really focus in on what it is I was in control of and what I could do. And that is how I started to work it back. That's how I started to build that trust again, how I started to build wealth. And going no contact with family is hard. It's not a decision made lightly. If you interact with anybody who had to make that decision, please understand that we didn't just wake up one day and decide to do it. We probably got very hurt for a long time first before getting there. And that was hard. That was probably one of the hardest parts, but I had to realize that this person continuously is trying to hurt me. And, I'm grateful that other friends showed me what love truly, gets to feel like, what support truly gets to feel like, what safety feels like. And they help to, lift me up and have my back. And I'm grateful for them. So some ways to spot it and start reclaiming your power. So some red flags are going to be secrecy. So not telling you what's going on when it comes to finances, restrictions of what you can view, what you can have access to, needing permission to spend. That's a big one. Fear of asking questions. Okay, those are all red flags that you want to be aware of. And to take some steps towards safety, confide in a trusted friend or counselor. What I will say about this is, if the friend or the counselor, like if the friend that you talk to um isn't receptive of what you're saying initially, that's okay. Everyone is responding based off of what they've experienced and their emotional capacity. And so it's okay to find another friend, or it is okay to just go straight to a professional and talk to them about it. Document as much as possible. That's something that I wish I would have done a little bit more. I did it a little, like a little bit, but document the financial info. Um, Yeah, it's important. One of the other things that happened that I guess I didn't talk about, but wants to come through now, is how, like, insurance money was taken from me after I got into a really bad car accident by that same person. And so I couldn't get a new car after that, or just a car, right? Because they took the insurance money. And so that is the one that I documented. Um but you want to document this as much as possible. If you are in danger, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's 1-800-799-SAFE, also known as SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE, or local resources. You can, you want to get some emotional healing. So therapy, trauma-informed coaching is great. Trauma-trained coaching is even better. And, somatic therapy, I will say, did wonders for me in processing the trauma that I dealt with, overcoming. It wasn't just financial abuse. There was other stuff there as well, but overcoming that was big with somatic therapy. And so I'm very grateful for that. I encourage you to rebuild your sense of financial safety. So whether that's through support, coaching, or trusted professionals, make sure that you do that. So to recap, financial abuse can happen to anyone, regardless of income, education, or background. It's about control, not capability. And reclaiming your power starts with awareness. Your action step this time, reflect on your current or past money dynamics. Do you feel safe, informed, and in control? If not, please reach out for support because you deserve safety and autonomy with your money. And again, I want to repeat this. If you're in a situation that feels unsafe, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, or visit the hotline, thehotline.org for help. And when you're ready to rebuild your confidence with money, I'd love to support you. And so you can reach out to me so we can focus on creating safety, clarity, and empowerment with your finances, whether that's through the wealth alignment assessment or you want to send me a DM, we can do that too. So next week, we will be talking about why you might feel conflicted about saving versus paying off debt and a practical way to do it. I appreciate, if you've gotten this far, I appreciate you listening to my story. If you sent good energy my way, thank you. I truly just hope that what I shared here helps someone else. That's the goal. Because no woman decides to no person needs to go through this or deserves to go through this and feel this level of fear around money. And so with that, sending extra love today, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.